Cool. Okay, do you want to run through, just at a really high level, what you can, acknowledging that the CCHL can't be here to answer their stuff in this forum, and then what we'll do is obviously note the councillor directors are stepping back, and then we'll go straight to questions, and then I know Yanni's got some amendments which I think this team have come up with, and then we'll see if anyone else got any changes and then move through it. So do you want to run us through really briefly?
Me. This is just the draft SOI. CCHL have already come before you with the quarterly report. The key aspects I just want to run through are that the financials in the draft statements are draft financials. They're still in their business planning period, and they will be finalised in time for the final SOI. The CCHL report that accompanies the draft SOIs has drawn out a number of omissions that they intend going back to their subs to rectify. A number of them are errors, but they will all be picked up, and we'll reinforce them in the feedback we give to make sure that we've got a record to compare when we get the final SOIs. Broadly, the financials, based on the draft numbers, are improved over expectations last year. That's all, again, drawn out in the CCHL report. Most, if not all of them, have commitments to living wage, commitments to diversity, commitments to executive remuneration restraint, commitments to group sustainability and carbon reduction, noting that it's quite complex and they're approaching that at a group level. And one other a key omission that is going to be addressed is the airport's dividend expectations, which they took out last year and haven't put back in, but we'll be asking them to.
Very good. Thank you for that. Lena, is there anything you have to add?
No, I mean, just apologies from the CCHL team that nobody's here to answer direct questions, and we'll take note of any questions which we can give to Paul and the team if they arise. Yep,
sure. Thank you. Okay, so we'll go through questions. Mike, do you want to start?
Thank you. It's actually really disappointing that we don't have CCHL staff here. We've just had Christchurch NZ and Venues Otatahi present with both their CE and chair. So I've got a couple of questions, and I'm going to have to direct
questions
them.
Would be good.
Yeah, but I'm just saying it's actually going to affect my decision I make, because I can't make a decision unless I get a good
that's
answer.
Fair point, but
so to Dawn, with regards to the statement of intent for DCL, do you believe this reflects the directive that Council gave CCHL at the public excluded meeting on the 28th of May 2020?
Sorry, can you repeat that? I missed the first bit.
Do you believe that the content within the DCL statement of intent actually reflects the directive that Council gave CCHL at the public excluded meeting on the 28th of May 2020?
If you give me a few minutes, I will reflect on that and try and answer that.
You move to your next question.
Thank you. Another question. In our letter of expectation to CCHL, we ask in there that all members of its wider group target carbon neutrality by 2030. Mm-hmm. In the statement of intent, they've actually said that it's going to be a group target. Mm-hmm. And I just want to know the reasoning behind this. And actually, are we letting companies transition not as quickly as Council has requested?
I think on that particular issue, it would be far more informative for a CCHL member to discuss that. I think the key issue there is that at a group level, targeting it at a group level allows them to manage the different impacts that some are facing more so than others, and it gets them, it's an intermediate step to get the group as a whole there, and then to move to addressing those companies that have quite a lot more exposure to, or create much more carbon.
Look, and thanks. I don't expect you to actually answer the question. I'd expect someone from CCHL to answer this question. But to me, I think they've just letting some of the companies off the hook for doing some work that's actually needed to
Can we just go to questions for now? There'll be definitely a time for debate, Mike. I'll guarantee you that.
Well, I would love to ask questions if I had the appropriate people here to ask them to.
Okay, well, I can't fix that today, but if you just calm down a wee bit. Yeah.
That's very
So you're actually not participating in... Yeah. So can we just stop for a sec? If everyone just stops. Right. So, right, what were you going to say? So you turn your mic on.
Yeah, so the feedback we had that was that we could add some information if it was useful, but not participate in debate and voting.
Right, so if it's useful...
Yeah, I was just saying that we have and my understanding is that we have a briefing or workshop coming up with CCHL on their climate work really soon, so that might be really helpful. Yeah.
Thanks, Sarah. That's great. Any other questions? Yanni?
So, thanks. Just wanted to check in regards to the statements of intent. Like, we keep seeming to repeat the same information around senior executive remuneration, and I see a number of them haven't even set targets. So, is there anything you think we should be asking CCHL to and getting their companies to do differently that would get a better outcome?
The LOE picked up the concern or the request for CCHL to ask its subsidiaries to work on closing the gap between the highest and lowest paid. CCHL sent its own LOEs to its subsidiaries before they received our LOE, and they have said that they will pick those issues up that came through in their feedback to the subsidiaries, so I would expect that to go through to the subsidiaries.
But so I'm just trying to find the page. There's that table that shows. There you go. It's on page 173. So Orion has got no comment on executive remuneration, and it's just got executive remuneration, no specific targets, no specific targets, no specific targets, no specific targets, no comments, no specific targets. And in living wage, it's got no comment from CAAL. And, you know, there's some companies that should be praised for actually addressing it. But then there's other ones that, like ECL, no comment, and City Care Limited, it's a TBC. So, right, I just don't know, like how do we get them to set targets?
Oh, right. So are you looking at the box that is in the CCHL report?
Yeah, so it's
last
page
column.
173. And it's the last two columns. It's a really good, like, I really appreciate whoever's put this report together. That's such a good way of showing things that we've asked for in the LOE and how they're being addressed. So, you know, it's really clear, but it feels like they're just completely taking the mickey out of us in regards to executive remuneration, where we keep asking the same thing, but we keep getting a worse outcome. And if you look at I don't know if you've had a chance to see the information that was sent through, but we're seeing, you know, huge bonuses still being paid, and we don't seem to see very much of a reduction. So, anyway.
I mean, the short-term incentive schemes that were operated by some of the subs, you all note that last year's annual report identified some were being phased out and were basically being replaced by core remuneration. And I think that was mentioned at a workshop that CCHL and Jeremy and Paul attended, which basically showed, you know, that all these market considerations where they're competing for executive remuneration in the market, they are pitching it at an appropriate level. That has not been benchmarked versus the public sector, but it actually has been benchmarked against the commercial operations.
Yeah, and I think that's the issue. So they keep benchmarking against the commercial and the private sector. If you look at City Care, their remuneration went up $100,000 in 1 year. You know, that's insane. $100,000 in 1 year at a time when we know groups are struggling.
Yeah, I mean, I get this completely, the sentiment. I know you've got amendments to that effect. CCHL aren't here to answer these. So, I mean, if there's a way in which you could describe potentially how we could look at further targets, but I'm not sure basically having got our staff over it is the most useful way of doing it. So,
right. So basically,
yeah,
I've put up an amendment that we, that we include some feedback, because there should be able to be targets set, particularly around that relativity in terms of top to bottom.
Okay,
and also
that's really useful. So have you got any more questions? And then we will get to your amendments as well.
Yeah.
Could I just perhaps add that?
You can if you have to. Yep. I'm just what I want to do is give everyone the chance to ask questions. So does anyone else?
The only other question I had. Oh, stuff.
Does anyone? I thought Jake, did you not have a? Oh right. Just the usual.
It's just a bit hard not having CCHL here. And I just think it's unfair on our staff at this stage.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, but I just think this is that productive.
Yep. Melanie. Yep.
I'm just flagging I've sent through another amendment based off what Mike was talking about.
Okay. I'll forward it. Yep. That's useful. Does anyone else have any questions? Jimmy.
On page 173, regarding to the CCHL accessory company, some of the comments, based on these 5 categories, no any comments. I don't know what I mean. And what I mean is a commitment for those kind of target or goals, or is I don't know. And also, what is the CCHL the attitude regarding to this response? No comments.
It's exactly the same question Yanni asked.
Yeah. Is there any other question? Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
So let's stop again. Is there anything in addition to what you'd already answered that you can provide to Jimmy to give him some reassurance?
I could just repeat that we are going to be addressing...
No, anything in addition.
No, okay.
Yep. No, cool. Right, James.
Okay.
Thanks, Tim.
New question. Do you know, because I think that it is tough on you as staff, do you know when, or why at least, CCHL isn't here for the public record?
Yeah,
No.
it's not really a question for them.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm aware.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
literally
Well, then put it back through then.
So the
I wasn't sure if I was allowed to ask you or had to ask
so the
them.
chief executive's unavailable, and as you'll be aware, the chief financial officer is literally starting here next week, so is on leave. It was just unfortunate timing in that respect. But again,
It is unfortunate too,
yeah,
because
what we
they're valid
reiterated.
questions too.
Yeah.
That need answers.
Yeah, but what we
not from them.
reiterated though is we'll again raise it, and
I'm
I'm
making my
sure the
point.
directors will as well with the chair. So yeah. Yeah. All right.
That's what
That's
the
okay.
chair's just said.
Yeah, we're good. Right, Yanni, and then I'm keen to.
So just in the we're told that there's regular reporting on remuneration expectations, but I'm just trying to understand how that actually happens. Because from my observation, we've only been told, oh, that's what the market pays. We haven't actually seen them report on that as per one of our measures. So do we need to put, I don't know what you get as staff. Do they report every 6 months on what's happening around the CEO remuneration?
No, they report. The reporting that they do to councillors generally in the F&P meeting, or if there is a workshop, and that's usually a verbal report.
Right, but it doesn't really go into, so if you just look at under 2.4, letter of expectation, key requirements, periodic reporting on achieving remuneration expectations across the group,
And so their answer is generally that they do engage with their boards of their subsidiary companies on that issue. And that's, I would say broadly, as much as they can do within the framework, the commercial framework that they have for the companies, the group.
So could we ask, for example, for them to show the trends, report on the trends, or
The trends in the market or the trends?
the trends of what they're paying in terms of senior executive remuneration across senior management?
Are there any other questions?
We could ask CCHL that question to provide some trend analysis.
So is there any other questions? What I'd be really keen to do is, can I just adjourn the meeting for 5 minutes? I just want to take some advice on something that may resolve Mike's issue about CCHL not being here. So can we come back at, say, 12:05, please?